Every time you use your cell phone, it connects to a tower, giving your exact location. This creates a map of your whereabouts. The cell phone companies control this information, and they're more than willing to give it up for a price. Anytime, anywhere, any place. If your phone is on, police could track you. They're not listening in, but they can tell where you've been, who you've talked to, even where you are right now. Where you shop, go to school, even what church you attend. The American Civil Liberties Union filed what may be the largest Freedom of Information Act request in history, trying to find out how, when, and why police departments nationwide are tracking our cell phone locations. They sent the request to hundreds of police departments nationwide. 200 agencies responded and turned over information. Of those 200, 95% track cell phones without a warrant.
The overall answers to these FOIs were quite disturbing.
Kent Willis is the executive director of the ACLU of Virginia. He argues cell phone tracking violates your right to personal privacy.
You have a right to make telephone calls when you choose, with whom you choose, without the government knowing when you're doing it.
Police departments argue tracking cell phones without warrants can save lives. They say they do it if they need to solve a crime or if they believe somebody is in danger. And criminal defense attorney Stephen Benjamin says they're not technically breaking the law.
It's not at all clear that a search warrant is necessary in order to obtain cell phone information.
However, in January, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a landmark decision which held putting a GPS device on a car without a warrant violated Fourth Amendment rights from unreasonable government searches. In Virginia right now, police need a search warrant to put a tracking device on your car.
That's right.
They don't need a search warrant to track your cell phone and where you've been.
That's correct. The police in Richmond and in any of the surrounding jurisdictions can go to any wireless carrier and request information.
The cell phone companies are turning over the data, oftentimes for a price. Companies are even sending out catalogs to police with a detailed list of services and prices. So are police in Central Virginia watching you? We sent the ACLU's Freedom of Information Act request to Richmond, Chesterfield, and Henrico County. Henrico admitted to the practice by sending us the form officers fill out and send to the cell phone companies. It says urgent and requests information for an emergency with immediate danger for life or property. But it's not a warrant. No judge needs to sign off. Both Richmond and Chesterfield County refused to respond, citing an exemption in the law protecting tactical plans which could jeopardize the safety and security of law enforcement personnel or the general public. Benjamin and others say cell phone tracking is an instance where our technology has outpaced our laws.
The more you permit police to use technology and invade our privacy, the more effective law enforcement will be. The question is, where do we draw the line?
Congress may take up this issue during a congressional hearing last week. The Department of Justice testified requiring a search warrant to track cell phones would cripple investigations. Rachel DePompa, NBC 12 News. They are the new eye in the sky, making red light runners think twice. The cameras are supposed to prevent this. Next to a head-on collision, it's the worst kind of crash to have. As of July 1st, state law no longer required VDOT to do a study before these cameras are installed, opening the doors to these red light companies, and they are now offering cities and towns some sweet deals. Richmond has a contract with Redflex and just recently installed a camera at Elkhart and Hall. Petersburg has 2 intersections covered by Redflex and was given the cameras for free.
The goal is safety. Safety is the goal.
But Delegate Joe Morrissey says otherwise.
Oh, stop it. You're concerned about putting money in your pockets.
Morrissey considers the cameras abusive to drivers, purely there as a way to make money for localities and the camera companies.
What they're doing is they're getting into bed with localities who have one goal: raise money, raise revenue, And the people who are bearing the burden are average, law-abiding, traffic-minded citizens who are getting really screwed by this, and I think it's disgraceful.
Morrissey is ticked off at the number of tickets these cameras are creating for motorists making slow-rolling right turns at red lights. In Virginia Beach, where the cameras are widely used, the city issued 2.5 million in right turn on red tickets last year. That's around 50,000 tickets. Petersburg's cameras are at Washington and Adams, which only had 4 crashes in 2011, and Crater and Wagner, which had 2 crashes.
There were 2 accidents there. Okay, so a VDOT study would say, hey, there's no need for a camera. Sure enough, they want to put a camera up there because it's a revenue generator.
We reviewed the data from a 12-hour period at Wagner and Crater. During that time, only 1 driver was caught blowing through a red light. 152 drivers would have received right turn on red tickets.
I am against this zero tolerance concept that we are going to issue a ticket for everybody who makes a right turn on red if they don't come to a full stop.
But Janet Brooking, the executive director for the nonprofit Drive Smart Virginia, disagrees.
Automated enforcement is a way to have a presence out there that serves as a deterrent to help people understand how to follow the law without, us having a law enforcement officer on every corner.
She points to a study by Old Dominion University of Virginia Beach's cameras. When the cameras were temporarily turned off, red light running tripled.
Why are we getting worked up about people doing something they shouldn't be doing anyway? Let's just follow the law, obey the law, make the roads safe for everybody.
Morrissey has proposed a bill to ban all right turn on red tickets from cameras unless there is video evidence that the driver failed to yield to a pedestrian, cyclist, or other vehicles.
Don't be deceptive. Don't raise revenue with this clandestine, big government surveillance mechanism that tags people. Let's do it the right way, the way it's supposed to be done.
He was his stepfather's best friend, his mother's heart.
I miss him a lot. He made me a better person.
The cycle of life came to a painful and sudden stop at just 9 years old for Christian Strickland.
And that's the hardest part, is to imagine that I could be alive for 50 more years and never see his face.
He died 1 week after attending a fishing camp that took him on the James River. Somehow, this microscopic and naturally occurring amoeba called Naegleria fowleri was forced up his nose and burrowed in his brain. He reported a headache on a Sunday, could barely get out of bed by Monday.
So I pulled him out of bed and he just melted onto the floor.
At the hospital, he was diagnosed with meningoencephalitis. His brain was swelling.
Hurry up!
This is video Amber has kept guarded until now. It's from Christian's time in the hospital. She wants you to see what this amoeba did to her son.
Christian, look at me. Look at me. I know you are.
You don't know where I am or who I am?
I see you.
And this is deadly, it's swift, and not only that, the family that is standing there with every last ounce of hope they have, watch their child suffer until he dies.
Within 3 days of arriving at the hospital, Christian was gone.
He said, I love you. And I said, I love you too. And at the time, I didn't appreciate that. I was hurting so badly that I didn't appreciate, that I got those last words from him. But I cherish him now.
Lurking in warm bodies of fresh water like the James River or Lake Anna, Naegleria fowleri is almost always fatal. There's no cure. It's hard to diagnose, and it's extremely rare.
What we think is that this is really related to water temperature, and so you see it in the southern tier states at the bottom of the United States.
Last year, there were 4 deaths. Along with Christian, a 16-year-old died a week after swimming in a Florida river, and 2 adults in Louisiana died after using neti pots filled with Louisiana tap water. Naegleria fowleri has taken more than 120 lives since it was first discovered in the 1960s, and yet little is known about the free-living amoebas. It thrives in warm, stagnant waters and soil, usually popping up in the summer months.
It is a great mystery. We don't really understand why the very few people who are exposed and develop this illness, why that happens. We're trying to understand it better.
Last August, the Centers for Disease Control announced it was attempting to develop a test for quickly detecting the amoebas. The agency said it would ask Virginia for samples from several waterways, but so far that sampling has not been done. A year later, the CDC is still perfecting the test.
It's really trying to study the environment to see if we can improve our understanding of this organism, to say whether we can even make any better public health, recommendations.
He was so beautiful.
Amber Strickland wants waters tested nationwide and signs put up if Naegleria is present so people can make their own decisions.
It doesn't take much to protect your children, it really doesn't. A nose plug.
She carries Christian's story on her back. Like most parents, before last summer, she'd never heard of Naegleria.
You see me? Yeah. You sure? Yeah.
Rachel DePompa, 12 on Your Side investigates. This is a murderer whose victim died more than 4 decades ago. Magnified thousands of times by a microscope, these amoebas killed a teenager in Richmond in 1968. They are being kept alive in a VCU Medical Center research lab.
Here's one moving right here.
Dr. Francine Cabral has spent the last 30 years trying to unlock the secrets of this rare but swift killer, Naegleria fowleri.
It can be found in soil. It's in freshwater lakes and ponds.
It's naturally occurring and can live in just about any freshwater environment, including stagnant sections of rivers, your backyard pools. Scientists have even found it in tap water.
This is an extremely rare disease. 10 million people can go swimming, and maybe one person might become infected.
Last summer, 9-year-old Christian Strickland from Henrico County was that one person.
He said, "I love you." And I said, "I love you too." It makes me proud that, even in those last moments of his life, that he still put me first. He knew that would help me.
It's believed he contracted Naegleria in the James River at a fishing camp. He's one of 4 known deaths in Greater Richmond over 75 years. There's no cure. It's almost always fatal. There are only 3 known survivors in the world. When Dr. Cabral heard about Christian last year, her heart broke.
All I could think about were my own children and how I would feel.
Cabral is one of only a few doctors worldwide to research the amoeba.
It's very difficult to get funding to study a rare disease.
She says swallowing Naegleria does not hurt you. In fact, most people have been exposed to it in their lifetime.
It's perfectly happy out there to feed on bacteria and yeast in the water and never have to infect a human. It's not a true parasite like others.
It's only in that rare instance when the amoeba is forced up the nose that a person becomes deathly ill. Dr. Cabral's found the amoeba in low levels in the James River and even in Lake Anna. She's also isolated Naegleria in water samples from Florida, Arizona, even Connecticut. She emphasizes it's rare, but says there are ways to protect yourself.
You can wear nose clips if you're going to be jumping in water. Even holding your nose will do the job.
She says don't stir up the sediment since the amoeba starts out in the soil. And she says always empty your kiddie pools every day and let them dry out.
If the amoeba are there and you dry them, the amoeba will die. They can't live without, water.
Though it's been found in the tap water in other states, Cabral's tested the tap water in Richmond several times and has never run across Naegleria. Rachel DePompa, 12 on Your Side investigates.